So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're glad to see you're here. I'm Marianne Ney, and I am with Senator Bruce Tarr as his Senior District Director. And we've done this for quite a few years now. This is the Senior Circuit Breaker, and the Senator has been extremely proactive in making sure that this has been funded appropriately for our seniors, for those that are eligible. And for quite a few years, we've had Brian Lynch, and he's from the Department of Revenue, come and explain it to all of you. And he does a fabulous job for eligibility, to see and answer any of your questions, very detailed on what this is all about. And and hopefully you will be eligible. So if you'd like to take it away, Brian, thank you so much for coming.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you to Senator Tarr for inviting me to come up here this morning. I live in Milton, so it's a little bit of a trek, but it's worth the trip. Great town, Newburyport. So we're going to talk about the Senior Circuit Breaker Tax Credit. Kind of a funny name. People say circuit breaker. What's up with that? Someone many years ago, they used the analogy of an electrical outlet when it's burdened or overwhelmed. The circuit breaker is in place, it's like it's activated or tripped to provide some relief for the burdened outlet. I don't know. They didn't ask me, but I think if we just called it like the Senior Real Estate Tax Credit, people would know what we're talking about, right? I think the best thing I could tell you this morning is I'm really happy to see the tax aid folks here. Looks like they hit Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I think was the sign. It's a great resource, wonderful. Not every town, yeah, and it's free. Yeah, not every town has it. Believe it or not, I went to my own town last week and had my taxes done with tax aid. And for years, I did it by paper. Just a old school kind of guy, and I could still do it. But last year it took the IRS probably 8 months to get me my refund. It was into the fall of, I think it was like September, and I had filed, maybe March, and I would check it all the time. And like on the IRS website, it says we have your return, but we haven't processed it yet. We haven't sent the refund. And it's just crazy. And I think this year is going to be even worse from what we're hearing.
Oh.
I don't know if they're going to have the people, but so I said, I've been talking about the Senior Center Tax Aid Program for years. I said, this year I'm going up there. Because it's great, it's free. They're very knowledgeable people. Most of them have like a background in, like they worked in banking or insurance, so they like numbers. And some of them even like taxes, if you can imagine that, who likes taxes, right? So let's get to
somebody else's, it doesn't
So let's get to the credit. The nice thing about the credit is it's refundable. And what I mean by refundable credit is that if you're eligible for the credit, and we'll walk through all of that in a minute, anytime you get a tax credit, whether it's federal or state, IRS or DOR, you always take the tax credit and apply it to your tax liability if you have one. Most tax credits, once you wipe out your tax liability, if you're able to, with the credit, then that's usually as good as it gets. That's the end of it. Circuit breaker goes a step further, that you are going to get the credit if you're going to apply the credit to your tax liability if you have one. And then if there's an excess credit remaining, you're going to get that amount refunded. So we'll put the money in your bank account, we'll send you a check, whatever you want to do. It is on your state tax return. So you have to file a state tax return with Massachusetts in order to get the credit. Some people, they even have said to me in the past, like, I don't need to file a state return. The state doesn't tax Social Security. We never did. We were not going to begin that I've heard of. So we never tax Social Security. The IRS could tax part of your Social Security depending on your other income. And they put you through this crazy exercise to figure out what your other income is like, to determine how much Social Security they're going to, obviously Social Security they're going to tax. But let's not worry about that this morning. So you see I have in the current year in the right-hand column for 24. We'll talk about that first. But the nice thing, you also see the prior 3 years are on my handout as well. And the reason why I have them there is everyone's working on their 2024 return now. But if you sometimes people are just learning about the credit, at a session like this morning, the prior 3 years is still available. And this applies to, you can go back to the IRS, or you can come to DOR where I work, and if you kind of overlooked something on a prior year return, you never heard about the credit, but you're learning about it today, you can amend or make a correction to a prior year return to get the credit. And so again, these 3 years are still in the running. The IRS and the DOR would both operate the same, and it will give you 3 years to correct a prior year return, but that's as far back as you're going to go. This credit has been in place with the Commonwealth of Mass for about 20 years. And people say, well, 20 years, but you really are really going to be able to go back the prior 3 if you were 65 and you were eligible with the numbers before. So with the criteria, the first issue is you have to be 65 by December 31st of the tax year. If you file together with your spouse, as long as one spouse is 65 or older by December 31st, then you can be both eligible. Like, you're still in the running, even though one spouse might only be 65 by December 31st. The other thing we need to talk about is the income eligibility. If you're single, your total income has got to be under $72,000 for 24. If you are married, filing together with your spouse, your total income has got to be under $109,000. Some folks are head of household. Head of household filing is you have a dependent person living in your household. Maybe a dependent relative or someone that you're providing more than 50% of their financial support. You would file as head of household because there's some advantages to that tax-wise. The nice thing, another eligibility thing we should talk about is the assessed value of your principal home in Massachusetts. So on my sheet for 24, the assessed value at Town Hall of your home cannot be greater than $1,172,000 for 24. So it's not the amount that Coldwell Banker promises you that they're going to sell your home for. It's the amount, again, with the treasurer or the tax collector at Town Hall, and that's the amount that they base your real estate tax on. Okay. What else we can do? Okay, let me just get a lot of thoughts and take a breath.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions so far? Yes.
What do they mean by your income?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to mention that. Income is your bank interest, your money that you might pull out of a 401k or an annuity. If you have investments, maybe you get dividends, or if you sold some stock, you have capital gain. So all those statements that come to you by the end of January, you're supposed to have them. Basically, that's your income. Also, unfortunately, with circuit breaker, even though the state doesn't tax Social Security, in the calculation, you need to add back your Social Security, because what we're trying to determine here
As income,
right? Does someone need help paying the real estate tax? That's what the credit is set up for, right? Over 65, generally on a fixed income, but we all realize, myself included, that our real estate tax seems to go up every year, and our water bill seems to go up every year as well, too, because the water bill is part of the calculation. So the nice thing about the income measure is, again, it's only the income that your investments maybe have earned, or the interest from your savings, so in the bank account. There are other real estate tax credits from a city or town, but they look at your assets. And the nice thing is, and what I mean by that is, if you're looking for help from Town Hall because you're having a hard time paying your real estate tax, they're going to ask you, how much money do you have in the bank? And you need to show them. And what do you have for investments or whatever? So again, because people maybe go to Town Hall and say, can you help me out, knock down this real estate tax, and having a hard time, they're not going to give you a break. Sometimes people don't want to part with the money. They have the money in the bank, but they don't want to let it go, right? And it's tough. You want to hold on to it. So this is a little bit different in that the tax credit that we're talking about this morning, circuit breaker, we're only going to look at the income that those investments earn. we're not gonna look at the assets of money that you have. How much money is in the 401k? How much money is in your IRA account, right? So that's a good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
It excludes any deductions.
The only thing you can deduct off your income is your personal exemption. So in Massachusetts, when we do our tax return, if you're single, you back off $2,200. Everybody does that. If you're over 65, you're able to back off another $700. If you're married filing jointly, you're going to back off $4,400 from your income. So from these numbers that you see here. As well as if you're both over 65, you're going to be able to subtract another $1,400. Okay, good question. So let's talk about the calculation. You need to bundle all your income together, and we're going to ask you to take 10% of that amount. Okay, so people should have kind of a general idea. It doesn't have to be exact, but let's try to think of 10% of your income. And again, if you're under these limits, then you're still in the running, right? Still with me. We're going to compare 10% of your income to what you paid in real estate tax to town hall. To your real estate tax, you're able to add half of your water bill. I think there's a lot of septic up here, right? Do you guys have sewage? Some people do.
Yes, sewage and water.
Okay, water and sewer. Okay, yep. So if you pay water and sewer, you're able to take half of your water and sewer that you paid. You're going to add that to your real estate tax. By adding half of your water and sewer, we're trying to boost the credit for you, trying to kind of make it a little bit more beneficial, right? So this credit through the Commonwealth of Mass is going to work for someone when their real estate tax, together with half their water bill, becomes greater than 10% of their income. So let me just pick some numbers, just to kind of demonstrate the point. So I'm single, my total income is $60,000. I'm under the 72, which is great, but my real estate tax bill is like $7,500, right? So right off the bat, I can tell that 10% of 60, my income, with the real estate tax of $7,500, this is going to work for me. I'm happy about this. So I'm $1,500 over. Again, I'm also going to be able to add half of my water and sewer bill to that real estate tax. So whatever the amount we're going to get, and everyone's numbers are going to be different because everybody has different income and everybody pays different real estate tax and everyone has a different water bill. So everyone's numbers are a little bit different. The maximum credit for the year of 24 is $2,730 on my handout, right under 24. You can see that there was a pretty significant jump between 22 and 23. The legislature appropriated the funds for circuit breaker. They know its importance to a lot of people. And what they did is they more than doubled the credit going from 22 to 23. It was part of a tax relief package that went through like at the end of 22 that would affect tax years 23 going forward. So pretty good. I mean, it's, not that everyone's going to get the maximum. Again, because like in my example, my credit might be like $1,500 right off the bat with the real estate tax. Half my water bill, maybe $300, maybe, so now I get $1,800. If I get the credit, again, when I do my taxes, or when I have them done by tax aid here down the hall, we're going to take the credit, apply it to my tax. Hopefully, it would be great to wipe the tax out altogether. Wouldn't that be awesome, right? But if we have a credit remaining, we're going to get that refunded. Again, either a check or put the money in your bank account, which is probably a little easier, a little safer. So I should mention that renters can qualify also. You don't have to necessarily own your home because part of the rent that people pay is going towards real estate tax from the landlord that they own property. The income measure for renters is the same. We're going to look at 10% of someone's total income, and we're going to compare that to 25% of the rent that they pay. If 25% of someone's rent is greater than 10% of their income, they're going to be eligible, they qualify for the circuit breaker credit, up to, again, the maximum for 24 is $2,730. The only catch with the renters is that they would be eligible provided that they're not living in any type of subsidized housing. if they're in a rental situation where the rent is already reduced, whether it's federal funding or state funding, or the town, religious, whatever it might be, the idea there is that they're already getting a benefit, a reduced rent, so then they wouldn't be able to kind of like double the benefit, double the pleasure, we used to say with religious, right? So what questions might you have up to this point? And I should mention that I'll be here too after the little presentation. Sometimes people want to run numbers by me. Did I hear you right? And this is my income, this is what I pay in real estate tax. Do you think that I'm gonna qualify? Do you think that this applies to me? So I'm happy to talk to people one-on-one, because I wouldn't expect people to kind of talk about their income in a group setting like this, so how much they're paying in real estate tax. Because that would create a little feud, and we don't want to get into that. Yes?
Yeah, your example you gave, income 60,000
Yeah.
for single, real estate tax is 1,500.
Yeah.
So the actual credit would be 10% of your income, would be your real estate taxes minus 10% of your income.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be 900 though.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my real estate tax and half my water bill, I'm gonna add to that.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna subtract 10% of my income. If I have an amount, like in my example, I said my income was 60,000,
Yeah.
10% we know is 6. My real estate tax was 7,500, so right off the bat, I'm $1,500 over. And I'm gonna be able to add half my water bill to the 1,500 and bring me up to maybe, let's say half my water bill might be $300. Now I'm up to $1,800.
You subtract the 600 from that. That's your credit.
Subtract the 600, 6,000, subtract the 6,000.
6,000.
Yeah, 10% of my income, yeah. Other question?
Next question.
Yeah.
If seniors have a question, or if I get calls in my office a week from now.
Yep.
Senior circuit, do you have a phone number that we can contact?
I do, but I can't give it to you. No, I can't. So on my handout is the 800 number at DOR.
If we have, this handout. Oh, it's not
Wait,
good.
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Also, a nice resource is you guys have the tax aid folks, right, with the ARP, which is awesome, because not every town has it. When you have volunteer programs, there's never enough volunteers to go around. They were trying to recruit me last week in my town,
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
"Am I gonna volunteer next year?"
And you said
I
yes.
said, let me think about it. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe. If I'm retired next year, then I would probably do that.
Yeah.
Probably would. Yeah.
It's a great benefit for the town.
Yeah.
And actually, you also ask neighboring communities as well, I believe, don't you?
Well,
If
that's
they
nice.
want to use this.
Oh, anybody can.
Yes, anybody can,
That's great.
right. So it's wonderful for those that don't have it in their community, they can come to here or to other.
The appointments fill up quick though, I'm sure.
They do.
So if you think you might be looking for a little help with your taxes, I would make the appointment with them before you leave this morning.
Yeah, I think they might be already full.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, it's very, very common, that's the
One
situation.
of our other staff people, Tracy, takes the appointments. I
Okay,
think she was into March and
yeah,
already.
Yeah. Wow.
fills up fast. So maybe next year, or maybe you could call, are there neighboring towns you think that have the tax help too? with their-
Probably, but a lot of neighboring towns call us
Oh,
when
I
they come
see,
here.
yeah. It's always the way, every year is kind of a scramble to,
There are quite a few, and you can call yourselves over at the councils on aging within your communities if you haven't been able to get into this one.
I don't know if this is like Shine, but some senior centers might take their own city people first or only. It
Yeah.
depends on the senior center.
I've heard of that scenario too. Yeah. So, I don't know, give it a shot and start early. Yes.
I know you explained this, but, so 3 years ago, like 2022, if you didn't know about it, does that mean you can still apply for it?
Yes. Yeah. So you could go back as far as 21. So you would have to have been 65 by December 31st of the tax year. When you go home, you can go to your junk drawer and pull out your returns from prior years. And as you go through the return, the state return, the credits kick in at the end of the return. So I'm thinking I should know the line item right off the top, but I don't. But look towards the end of the tax return, there's a line for circuit breaker. And if you have an amount there, and you would have a schedule attached to your return, you'd have the circuit breaker schedule attached,
Yeah.
I say you got the credit. If you look at that line item on your tax return and it's blank or zero, you didn't, then I say you didn't get it. So that's kind of the schedule. You know, tax people, we have a form for everything. We love forms, right? Well, now everything's electronic. Just an interesting tidbit. Last year, where I work for the state tax agency, only 8% of all the returns that we got were done by paper. 92% of the tax returns we got were done by computer, either by people like purchased like TurboTax or H&R Block package, or they went to AARP who files on the computer for you. So every year the electronic returns go up and the paper returns go down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for 24.
There's still a form involved.
There's still a form,
Right.
yeah.
So to get the form.
Yep. So that's where I'm going with it, is you see on my handout, I talk about Schedule CB in that kind of like the bold print under refundable credit. So Schedule CB, either in the book or part of your software package that you're using with TurboTax, that's where you're gonna do the calculation. That's where they're gonna walk you through, you got your income from the regular return. You're going to be able to take off $2,200 if you're single. If you're over 65, which would have to be another $700. They're going to say, let's take 10% of your. You've added in your Social Security as well, because your Social Security doesn't show up on the state return at all, unless we talk about circuit breaker, and then it's included in. And again, the idea is, does someone really need help with their real estate tax? That's what it's designed. That's who it's designed for. So when you do the schedule, let's take 10% of your income. What did you pay for real estate tax? Let's add half your water and sewer bill, and then let's see what the difference is.
Do
Question?
the AARP people know how to do this?
Very much, yeah. So, you know, we know that that's really their population, right? That over 65, even though I know that they help, I think AARP even starts like at 55. But they're very familiar with it. And you can feel very comfortable with volunteers that are affiliated with AARP. They're trained by the IRS. They use IRS equipment. They have their own training that they conduct themselves. A lot of people come back year after year, so they're very experienced, but I would feel very comfortable with going to AARP taxi volunteer. Price is right too, which is great. Questions? All right, so it really isn't that difficult, you know? That's why they send me to talk about it. If it was born from, I wouldn't be here. But it's really pretty, you know, a lot of times when we talk taxes, people just kind of gloss over and, do we really have to talk about taxes? But, you know, and we've said to people along the way, like, even the guys playing pool, like down the hall, you might want to listen to this because, you know, just give me 10 minutes and it might be a little worthwhile for you. It might pay off. But that's all I have. And you're welcome. And I'll be here too. I'm not going to run away. So if you want to talk one-on-one, I'm happy to do that. Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brian. We really appreciate it.